Hello and welcome. Today we are going to learn about polar coordinates of a point. In this video we will learn what are polar coordinates and how we can determine polar coordinates of a point. So let's begin. So this is our coordinate plane, x-axis, y-axis, origin, and let's say this is point P on this coordinate plane. So let's recall the idea of Cartesian coordinates of a point. So Cartesian coordinates are actually perpendicular distance of that point from both x and y axis. Now suppose you want to find polar coordinates of the same point. Then how do we go about it? So to find out the polar coordinates of a point, we need two things. First thing is the distance of that point from the origin, which we call as radius vector. In this case, let's say it is r. And the second thing, we need to know the angle which OP makes with positive direction of x-axis. Let's say this angle is theta. Then the ordered pair r theta forms polar coordinate of the point P. Let's see these things in detail. So first we'll see sign and value of theta. Here are a few important things to notice. First thing is theta is always taken in radian. Second is theta may be positive or negative. It totally depends on in which direction you are measuring it. If you are measuring it anti-clockwise, then it is positive. If you are measuring it clockwise, it will be negative. Let's understand it by a few examples. First example, we have to draw a point whose polar coordinates are 5 pi by 3. You can see here theta is positive. So first we'll take this angle in the anti-clockwise direction from OX. Let's say this is angle pi by 3. Then we take a line segment of 5 units. Then this point P1 will be the point whose polar coordinates are 5 pi by 3. Let's take one more example. In this example, theta is negative. You can see it is minus pi by 3. So we will measure it in clockwise direction from OX. So it is minus pi by 3. Now we will take a line segment of 5 units. Now this point P2 will be the point whose polar coordinates are 5 minus pi by 3. So by these two examples, you must have understood how do we measure positive or negative theta. Let's take a few more examples. Suppose you have to draw a point whose polar coordinates are 5, 3 pi by 4. Now this is obtuse angle. Since it is positive, we'll take an anti-clockwise direction from OX. This is angle 3 pi by 4. We take a line segment of 5 units. And this is the point P3 whose polar coordinates are 5, 3 pi by 4. One more example. We have to find a point whose polar coordinates are 5 minus 3 pi by 4. Now it is negative angle, so we will measure it in anti-clockwise direction from OX. It is minus 3 pi by 4 and this is the line segment of 5 units and this is the point with negative theta and that too obtuse angle. So I hope you must have understood about the sign of theta. Now the value of theta is between minus pi to pi. It is known as the principal value of P. Now if you get value of theta beyond these limits, you can always convert that in the given range. As we have studied about theta, now let's see what about r. As theta can be positive or negative, r can also be positive or negative. But in these two examples, r is positive. Now let's see how we can find negative values of r. Suppose you have to plot a point whose polar coordinates are minus 5 pi by 3. You can see here point P1 has polar coordinates 5 pi by 3. Whenever we have to measure length of a side, it is always positive. So when we have to take negative r, we'll take reflection of this point P1 about the origin. Let's say it is here. Coordinate of this point would be minus 5 pi by 3. So whenever you have to plot a negative r, first plot a point with positive value of r and then you take reflection of that point about origin. Let's understand this by one more example. So it is minus 5 minus pi by 3. So you can see in the example 2, we have taken point P2 with r as 5 and theta as minus pi by 3. So theta will remain minus 5 by 3. To get negative value of r, we'll take reflection of this point P2 about origin and this point will give us value of r as negative. So the polar coordinate of this point P4 are minus 5 minus pi by 3. I hope you must have understood about positive and negative value of both r and theta and also how to plot any point when the polar coordinates are given. In the next video, we will see relation between Cartesian coordinate and polar coordinates of a point. So stay tuned and do like, share and subscribe the channel. Thank you so much for watching.